Hello, here we are for the latest installment of new arrivals at Princeton Record Exchange on a beautiful late October day with a lot of noisy construction going around. Okay, so today we're featuring over 200 classical audiophiles. We'll do a little brief primer, but mostly be flipping through the titles. We'll start out with the London Bluebacks. Of course, for those of you who don't know, back is indeed blue, but also you're going to want the label to say full frequency stereo sound. Not going to call out the titles this time. We'll just let you see the pretty covers. Really nice collection. A lot of British imports, a lot of domestic. Okay, into the Mercury SRs. That's the SR 90,000 series. You can see that there. Also some very nice titles, very sought after. Mostly late 50s into the 60s. Stuff you just don't see every day. And into the Shaded Dogs RCA Living Stereo. Those of you who don't know, the shade around the little nipper dog there, that's how you can tell that. Again, very sought after, don't see him every day. This gentleman really took great care of his stuff. The Shaded Dogs aren't necessarily all in the best of condition. The later, the Columbia SAXs and Deccas that we'll be getting to. Very nice. But a really great assortment, bigger than we've seen in quite some time. Oh, into the Columbia SAXs. Now this and the Deccas are really beautiful part of this collection. Really hardly ever see the British imports coming through. I've got, let's see, examples of the first and second pressings. The first pressings of these are going to be the blue-silver label. The second pressings, a little bit later, the red and black label there. Biggest assortment I think I've ever seen. I know it doesn't look like that many records, but you just don't see this type of stuff over here. For whatever reason, the later E.M.I.s, there's a lot in the country, but these earlier Columbias, Deccas, you just don't see them very much. So, some great stuff there. Moving on to some of the early E.M.I.s as opposed to the later 80s pressings. And the way to identify those would be the gold label with the nipper. The later E.M.I.s all had a red label. Some have the label, some the full. Again, hardly ever see this many in excellent shape. The gentleman was purchasing auction for quite some number of years. And into the Deccas, we have both the wideband and narrowband. The wideband, there is an edition 1 and edition 2. I'll try to show you some of that. They all have this large wideband there. The later ones in here, much narrower. The first ones, if you can really see it, it's original recordings by. The second editions, made in England by, in the upper left part of the label there. So, a really beautiful assortment. Some dupes, almost all in excellent condition. And again, quite an assortment. Stuff you just don't see over here. Later pressings, some of the later narrow bands, and back to some wide bands. Really nice stuff. And into just a few remaining miscellaneous, some British imports, reissues, Laritas, reference recordings, Decca reissue, Sheffield Lab, Wilson audiophile, hardly ever see those for some big bucks these days. Reference recordings, and that's about it. Over 200 classical audiophiles going out October late, 22nd, 23rd at Princeton Record Exchange in Princeton, New Jersey.